Okay, so now that we have our eye drawn, the next step, after you've drawn your right and left eye, kind of mapped it out, is to draw the nose. And with the nose, the way that I like to place and make sure that everything is appropriately placed with length and proportion is to look at my eye, and then I take my eye, I'll measure my eye, and then I can see how many eye lengths down is my nose from to the bottom of my nose. So if I look at the picture of myself here and I drop it down, it's about an eyeball and about a smidgen. So if I was going to attach a nose to this face and I want it to resemble the proportion of this, I need to take here, this, drop it down, and a little mark right around here. Okay, so once I have that, that's where I know the bottom of my nose will be. And then the next step that I do, just to line things up, is I could take a straight edge, and see where the nose intersects the eye itself. So if I drew a line here, and I could draw a line on the other side, I can see in relationship where it fits on the face. Another final thing to do is you could also take your eyeball measurement and see how wide your nose is, how many eyes fit in your nose. So I looked at mine very quickly, and it looks like I have an eyeball space of my nose. So I can make a little tick mark here and a little tick mark here. So that's about how wide and how long my nose is. So when I start the nose, one thing that I like to do first is I usually like to start with the side of the nostrils. Right here, my little parentheses. I work with my parentheses and what I have. So once I have those, my next step is to usually capture this bottom line under here. I call it the nose infinity symbol. It's kind of like an infinity symbol, I guess. Goes up and it comes down. These are pretty much the only lines drawn in the nose with an actual line. The rest of it is going to happen with shading in our smudge stick. We want to show the volume of the nose without drawing harsh lines. And my nose of what not to do over here, this is my lovely face with the bad eyes. People will often draw hard lines on either side, and this just does not look really realistic. It looks like an upside down piece of broccoli, and we don't want that. So for our nose, once we have this, what I can start to do, use your pencil, look to see where there's light and dark, and start to pick out these shapes. Like if I look here, I could see this big shape of darkness right here. So what I'll start to do is I'm going to start to just kind of very carefully go through with my pencil. Now with my pencil that I'm holding it on the side. I'm not holding with the point. When I hold with the side, that's going to allow more graphite to hit, and it's going to make my life easier. So I'm being very loose. I'm going around the nose, up and around, up and around, up and around. And I'm going to go up and down as well. And I'm just trying to layer this stuff in so that when I come through with my blending stump will have something to pick up. So now that I have a little bit of that type of thing going on, I'm going to go through with my blending stump, and I'm going to up and around, up and around, up and around. So one thing that you will notice right now is that I'm overshading. I'm overshading in the area where there's highlight. I'm overshading because what's going to happen is I'm going to go back through with my eraser, and I'm going to hit it where the highlight is. But having this current running through and naturally within the nose will make my nose look more realistic in the end. I don't know if you've ever been coloring in a coloring book and you color right close to that one line and you could tell the whole area is filled in, but right close. If you try to work with the highlight right off the bat, it's just going to make your life harder, and it's going to be a little bit less natural looking. So I'm going through, I kind of filled in this area a little bit. Now with my kneaded eraser that I have, what I'm going to do is I am going to use it to almost draw with. I'm not just actively going left to right, I'm going up and around, up and around, and then up and down. Looking to see where I see those highlight areas. And it's just going to make it more natural of a transition when I have it. Sometimes you might over erase or under erase, but these kneaded erasers are great. So I'm just drawing with it, going with the flow. So I have some of this value started, and like I did with the eye, I need to go back and I need to beef it up a little bit because what I went through and I shaded with, it weakens it. So always whenever we're drawing something, we're doing black and white, we want to have the darkest darks and the lightest lights. So have that, and then you'll notice the shadow happens on the outside of my nose here, and that part of my nose kind of stays white. So going around. These lines on the outside over here are important. They help add to the belief that this is a three-dimensional object. And I'm going to go through now and I'm going to get underneath my nose. This is the fun, easy part where you just go through with a darker pencil. I'm going to go through and color that part of my nose in. And one thing to be cognizant of is when you're drawing people's faces, sometimes you'll notice something and you're going to be like, oh man, that person has a huge eye or a huge nose or something weird about them. Unless it's someone who you're trying to beautify, be true to the picture. And if they do have something weird about them, you should honor it and draw it. If you don't, it's not going to look like the person. Just try your best to honor what's there. Let your eyes tell you what's there and not your brain. That's going to help you draw a better, more realistic looking picture. Don't worry if they have a big nose. If they have a big nose, it is what it is. Okay? So within this, I'm just looking for shapes of shading to go through, and I'm being soft. Again, the only time we want to draw harsh lines is when we're drawing someone who's old, or maybe a witch, or a wizard, I guess. Okay. I'm going to go through and beef that up a little bit too. And depending on your style, some people have different styles where they like to render things extremely well so it doesn't even look like a human drew it. You can have things look sketchy, or you could have things look really smooth. You could have a combination. It's up to you. So good things to think about when you're making your art. Do I want it to look like a computer made it, or do I want it to look like someone made it, or do I want to be extremely polished or not so polished? All good things to think about. So once I have this here, not too much more I need to work on. Go through. And that is basically how we go after a nose. So again, you start with the parentheses, you go for the nose infinity, and then up and around shading. That is the way that we get after our nose. So that's our nose.